Hi everybody, welcome to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about my Halloween costume that I made for Halloween 2022. Now Halloween in the UK isn't so much of a big deal as it is in the States, and I'm not normally someone who makes Halloween costumes. You know, I will do the bit of face painting and I will help my kids dress up, but making a costume for myself isn't something that I've really done before. And I'm not sure what came over me, but I decided that this was the year that I was going to do it. There are a few things that kind of went into this. For one thing, I have been an actor since the beginning of 2021 and I don't have many things under my belt yet. One of the things that I've always wanted to be involved with is the Star Wars saga and all of its spin-offs that it's currently producing. Being 4'6", it kind of means that I'm more likely to get a role in that kind of thing because they need people who look slightly different and who aren't your average human. Unfortunately, a Star Wars casting has not come my way this year, and that's okay. Perhaps it will or it won't in the future, but I decided to take matters into my own hands. I've kind of always been fond of those desert-dwelling people, Jawas. They're kind of short, they wear these kind of monk-like robes with the big hoods, and they have these very distinctive amber orange glowing eyes. So I really wanted to challenge myself to make this costume. So if you'd like to see how I did it, and I think it came out pretty well, then please stay tuned and keep watching. Okay, so what I have here is 3 meters of Hessian fabric, or burlap as it's sometimes called, and it was relatively inexpensive. It's very rustic, and I felt like it would be a really good representation of the Jawa Robe fabric, which is obviously quite rustic and weathered. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash it, and it may unravel a little bit, which is fine because actually I noticed in some of the photos that the Jawa robes are actually quite unraveled in portions, and I think it'll just really add a nice effect. It's obviously not the right colour right now, and this is part of the process, is that I'm going to dye this fabric. So it's suggested that you actually wash the fabric first, and hopefully that will also sort of rough it up a little bit and make it look just a little bit less neat and new. So I'm going to put that in the washing machine now. I decided to put it on quite a short cycle and on a low temperature, and also on a relatively low spin, because I'm just a little concerned about the fibres that might come out, and I don't know, maybe that gets stuck in the washing machine. I don't have a large enough laundry bag to put it in, so I'm kind of just hoping for the best. But here it goes. Okay, it's out of the machine, and we have some fraying going on, which looks pretty cool. And yeah, it's just generally looking a little bit more rough and ready. So I'm going to put it out on the line to dry because it's a nice sunny day. So here I am just preparing the dye bath. This bucket is about 24 litres, which was just about enough for all the fabric. That's a cup of salt going in. This helps to fix the dye to the fabric. And the water is really hot. That's the dye going in. This is actually dark brown, and this is the first time that I dyed it. The second time I dyed it with cocoa brown, and the two of them together actually made just the perfect colour for the Jawa robe. I was really happy with it. This was actually my first experience of dyeing anything. I was very much learning on the go and figuring it out as I went, which I think is actually sometimes the best way to do things. Just go for it. So I had to make sure that I put the fabric in really slowly, because obviously the container that I was using was quite small and it wasn't quite enough for all the fabric. I mean, it just about worked. So here I'm just making sure that I put it in nice and slowly so that the fabric actually sort of soaked up the dye bath as I put it in. And also the water was really, really hot, so I didn't want to put my hands in. And here it is drying on the line. So On the other side, you can actually see, and I just point out now, there's like a bluish sort of stain. That's from where I didn't move the fabric around enough in the container, and that's mostly because the container was a bit too small. Next, I folded the fabric into quarters and I began to sort of mark out the general shape of the robe. I used a hoodie to give me a sort of point of reference. And originally I started to try and cut this with my rotary cutter, but actually, although my rotary cutter is very sharp, the fabric is too strong and bouncy for the blade to really cut through. So I ended up having to cut through all 4 layers of the fabric with my scissors, and even the scissors struggled a bit. Initially, I made this way too big. I was being very generous with how much space I needed. Here I am cutting the lining for the hood. Unfortunately, I don't have any footage of me cutting the hood piece itself. And this is just black poly cotton, it's nothing special. I'm taking measurements here so that I can use them for future reference if I ever make another hood like it. And what you see me do in a minute when I pin it together is that I'm actually pinning it completely wrong. And I realised this later, and I have to completely unpin it and do it again. So if you're watching this and looking for like a tutorial, don't copy this bit because this bit is wrong. But I do figure it out. And like I said, you know, learning on the go. That's what it's all about sometimes. Here's Lara sitting on the almost completed hood. And this is what it looks like on. I'm really happy with how it looks at this point. And then I proceeded to make a sort of scarf bit that would attach to the bottom of the hood because Jawa seem to have a kind of extra bulk there in their robes. It's not screen accurate, but I'm not too concerned about that. I did try to attach the 2 pieces of fabric in a sort of fancy way, but actually I didn't have enough length to do that with, so I ended up just having to attach them straight. And it wasn't bad in the end. Some novelty audio coming up.
What?
I got that. What happened?
I don't know what you're talking about. Didn't just turn around and the cat was sitting there, right?
Yeah, so I wish that I hadn't actually ironed this like I do in a minute because I feel like it really took away from the scruffiness of the Jawa look. So things to remember for next time, I suppose. I'm actually ironing it incorrectly at this point. I should be ironing it with right sides together, but currently I have wrong sides together, and I will discover my mistake in just a minute and you'll see what I mean. So here it is with the hood sewn on to that sort of scarf bit, and it's inside out. I should have sewn it on the other way because you can see all the kind of stitches, and it should be sewn in such a way that it encapsulates the raw edges of the fabric so that they don't come undone or fray. Anyway, I correct it, and this is more what it should look like. All of those raw edges are caught in. And on the end of each of the scarf, I put this popper so that it can be kind of wrapped around the neck and then popped at the back. I also added a stitch in the hood to sort of make the point come down, and I think it just looked way more natural, and I really liked how it looked. This part is to go over my head when I'm wearing the Jawa mask. So as you can see here, I'm just marking out the eyes using a piece of chalk and half of one of the baubles that I used for the eyes. This part of making the costume was a little bit of like trial and error. I only had this one piece of fabric to go with, I didn't have any more, so I had to get it right, but fortunately all my estimations were correct. And I was able to cut the holes in the right place so that the eyes of the mask would fit through and you'd see only the glowing eyes and nothing else. And there we are. I kind of call it my executioner's hood because that's what it reminds me of, which is a bit dark, but never mind. So here is a quick video that I uploaded as a short to my channel showing how the costume goes together. That's the little executioner's hood over the mask. Next comes some black cotton gloves that I purchased from eBay, they're really simple. And then comes the robe. And then comes the hood. And I think it was super effective. I'm really happy with how it came out, all except for the bandolier, which I'm going to talk about next. Okay, so a word about the bandolier, which is the pouches that the Jawas wear across their bodies. This was incredibly difficult for me to do, mostly because I've never worked with vinyl leather before, so this is faux leather. I've never worked with it before and it was just not thick or strong enough as actual genuine leather would be. And mostly because of budget, but also because of ethics, I'm vegan and I don't purchase leather, I decided to use faux leather instead. And honestly, it was such a headache trying to get it to behave correctly, to give it more structure and to make sure that it stayed in the right place. If you're trying to put the bandolier together and you're using the authentic pattern, then I very highly recommend watching this guy's video. I used his in order to figure out how the pieces go together, and also he works his entirely in leather very, very well to a very high standard. So if that is something that you're interested in, I will put the link in the description, and I will also put a card up here and you can look at that, and that's definitely what I did. I'm not really going to show you any more footage of my own of the bandolier because I was quite disappointed with it in the end. However, the rest of the costume, the robe, the hood, the eyes, all came off brilliantly. And if you'd like to see a video about how I made the eyes and the mask specifically, then please go to this video up here where you can see exactly how I did it from scratch using paper mache to begin with. And it was really fun and really exciting, and I think it worked so well. So yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to, and I will be back with another one really soon. Say bye, Jonah.